Hey, it says live in the corner.
Okay, says live here too. So now what I want to do is I want to find, what I'm going to do is find us on YouTube because I want to make sure. Let's see. This ought to make sure I have a shareable link.
Okay.
Because I've done this before, except I've done it. Generally, the other people are the ones that I'm able to have link it up, so I can just come right on in. But I always like to make sure that everything is working just fine.
Awesome.
I'm going to click off all my other links to make sure that there's no. Okay, we got events live, start, there, public.
I didn't realize I had that up.
You didn't realize what?
I was just looking at something I had in the background that was up. I was like, oh, man.
Let's see. And I'm looking for my share link. So my whole thing is, will I be able to bring someone in? Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like we're live. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spam this out. Let's see. I'm going to put I'm live right now. Drop in. Let me know how the broadcast looks. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go onto my Facebook and add a few people.
All right. I'll send that out on my Twitter.
Oh, your Twitter is there a way on Facebook to blast it out on to a bunch of people, or is it only
as far as I know, it's just the timeline. Whoever
so how do
sees it. I mean, I guess you tag them, but if they're, I mean, yeah, that's a great question. I don't even know.
Okay, I'll put it on my Twitter as well because I hadn't thought about that just because Twitter isn't my main mode.
Oh man, it is fast.
Well, you know what? I think it's too fast. You know, one of the things that I often end up having to realize very early in Twitter is I'm a long-winded person. I like to have these nuanced conversations, and with Twitter, you have to be really kind of bang on top of that get in quick game.
Yeah. Why the hell, man? Oh, why you? Okay, never mind. I'm sitting here like, why can't I find you? There you are. All right, cool.
Let's see. We're talking about freedom, responsibility, and nuance.
Oh yeah, that's cool with me. Freedom, responsibility, and nuance.
I'm just putting that in the text.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm doing too. Just let me know when you're ready to start off. I'm gonna send it out mid combo ish once we start talking.
Oh, okay. You're not okay. Let me.
Yeah, yeah. I was just figuring we would start, and then like so people come in and don't wonder what the hell I'm doing. Uh, so like not like 20 minutes in, like 20 seconds.
Okay. I don't. For some reason, it's not on Facebook. I'm trying to tag you into it, but it won't let me.
Huh. Um, it's interesting.
Some people
So
have it.
you put the link up and it won't let you tag me?
Yeah. Because I just normally I should be able to just start typing EDWA because it's Edward.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why it's not coming through. That's interesting.
Let's see. Tag friends. Who are you with? Tag a couple people that I know will. Something that I learned a little while ago is when I actually put and share this link, more people share it because people forget to even that they can share it.
Yeah, isn't that weird, man? Calls to action, and I always like think calls to action are silly, but they work. So who am I to argue with results?
Let's see. Let's just see. All right. What?
Nah, I put a silly message out where I keep forgetting to like whenever you're in your own world about your own sense of humor, you forget that people don't always know you're joking.
Right.
And so I put a tweet out, Swisher Sweets greater than Cuban cigars. I'm from the projects, don't at me. And some dude messaged me and was like, dude, I love to send you out some of my Cuban cigars. Just give me an address. And I'm like, yo, I'm just being silly. I don't smoke, man. Uh, So yeah, that's why I was looking down at the response. I was just like, man, people take their pride seriously, which is cool, man.
My whole thing, hold on, I'm trying to adjust it so there's no glare on my glasses. Because there, you see that glare?
Yeah.
I have to turn down the actual, the screen. Because I've got a light going up here too. I might have to get something to bounce it, but is this easy enough to see?
Yeah, that's fine with me. I can see right on. Is it good to send off?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Interesting combo. That's it. And interesting combo about freedom, responsibility, and nuance. Unscripted love. All right, here we go. Cool. There we go. Sent out. Now whoever drifts in. Oh, 57.6 thousand people who like to see things I say.
And so, because I'm on the other side, I have to kind of learn some of the nuances because I've normally just will record with somebody and post it later, as opposed to doing now. So this is always going to be a little bit more adventurous.
Well, as you being the host, I don't know the rules for what gets something banned or anything. I haven't had to walk that line on YouTube yet. But I'm assuming as long as we don't talk about killing anybody or selling any dope, I mean, you might be able to get away with that stuff. Everyone's focused on hate speech now, whatever that means. But I don't know. There was somebody put a tweet out a long time ago, had me cracking up. It went viral. Said I remember when Twitter first came out, you could show somebody how to cook crack by cooking crack in the microwave. Now you can't even call a fat girl fat, and I thought that was hilarious.
Damn.
but this is the climate that we're in now. So on your first little foray into live YouTubing, I've been told that there are things that you can say even in a live stream that'll like bring the PC police down on you. But based on my conversations with you, I don't believe we're going to have that issue.
Well, here's what ends up happening though. The behind the scenes for it all is that there are people, let's just say I do not like Ed Latimore. I think he's just for whatever reason, justified or not, I don't like you. So what I'll do is I can set reminders under fake names, under other things, and say, oh, whenever you pop on, I'm just gonna say some shit to you. And whenever you come on, I absolutely make it a point to go on and have all my friends report you as well.
Oh yeah. So a lot of my first response as a rational person with something going on in my life is like, wow, that's a lot of energy for for someone's words you don't like. Then I remember that most people aren't rational and most people don't have a lot going on. Certainly not enough to keep them from engaging in such fuckery. But here we are. That's just another one of these weird symptoms of today. I think technology is I mean, it's a problem on technology, but technology is really the blame. Life is so easy and our attention spans are so short that we have to do something to make our lives entertaining and fun rather than go develop and improve. So instead of sitting there reading a book and learning something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to report somebody random I've never met. And I don't know anything about him, but I've decided that, hey, this guy is hurting my feelings.
Well, here's the kicker, right? Here's the thing. It goes into that freedom again. You and I have enough freedom in life to be able to express opinions with nuance, whereas a lot of other people can't. And a lot of that gets to the heart of what I knew you'd be qualified to talk about as well. Actually, I'm going to overuse this term, not free to talk about, but free to talk about, because you and I can have discussions on our thoughts, on our dreams. and talk about what we find interesting, what we find not interesting. And people can often be jealous just of our ability to have this conversation, to be able to say, hey, I want to talk about this, and no one can stop me. No one can stop me from having my opinion because, again, you and I, and this is not as to say the only men who are free are men who work for themselves. What I'm saying is you get a lot more freedom when you earn your own dollar, when no one can fire you, when you can't have someone look at you and say, oh, well, I don't think what he said was correct. And does your company stand behind someone who does this?
Right. And I think about this particular problem a lot because while obviously, well, not obviously, in case anyone watching or you didn't know, I am beholden to no boss. That doesn't mean I don't have to answer to people, but there's no collective entity known as a corporation with their own interests that can decide that my lifestyle, or what I say, or how I live is counter to those values and would be harmful to the bottom line. But there are people I'm responsible to, like for example, man, I think a lot about the students that I work with and their parents. What I've learned, every single parent has decided to Google me, as they should. And
Yeah,
when they do, it works to my advantage because when you type my name in, there's all this stuff that I've done and things that I've said, and I'm not some kind of shock jock out here looking to just rile up opinions. But if something off color did pop up, right, that I did say something crazy, then I put them in a problematic situation. One, I'm very good at what I do, but they have to decide if they want to stand by if they perceive me saying something crazy, right? And tutoring is not like I mean it's income, it's like gas money at this point, which is nice, but like at one point it wasn't. At one point that was how I made my living. And so, why would I? But I'll survive. I'll figure it out. I'm like a cockroach in many ways in that respect. But what I don't want to ever do is put, I guess, the individuals, and this is one other cool part about being your own person, is that you're dealing directly with people, and so your empathy about their situation, is probably a little higher than it would be if it was like, oh man, that's my boss. Fuck, it's hard to like because there are no bosses. No one says come to work. I mean, we agree on a time and that kind of thing. So that's like my angle on that, how I see that.
Well, like you said earlier, what bothers me is that consistent narrative that the biggest threats to me are not other people who are successful and powerful and have their life under control. It's the person who has no freedom. It's that person who does something they hate for not enough money. Not that there is enough money to do something you hate, but they do something they hate for their entire life. They have nothing to show for it, monetary or otherwise. They do not have the self-respect they want, and they bump into someone like me, and it's suddenly, well, you're a bad person. Really? Why? Well, you said this thing. And our ability to have nuance, because, and I'll just go balls deep on this one, this Kavanaugh issue with the United States Supreme Court, most people don't realize how heavy this is.
Well, I probably don't. I mean, because I'm fairly anti-politics. Funny, I just an hour ago blocked the search term, not the search term. You know how like I don't, or maybe you don't know on Twitter you can like mute words that come through because everyone. Now I'm not like I play like I don't know a lot of shit, but I'm fairly aware of what's going on. I may not for many things I don't know the details. This is one of those things that's kind of hard to ignore, and so finally I was like, all right, pop off. But in terms of like how I view this is man, see when you don't when something happens, and I don't know if this is related to a bigger issue or maybe it is. It's just my first thoughts and responses to it. When something happens and you don't say something about it, there are times, you make it easier for the other side to say you're incorrect or lying or whatever when you choose opportunistic times to come forward. And no matter what, I don't that's just all I look at is the strategy. I don't have an opinion about whether he did it or not, or whether he's guilty. Or I don't even know if he's been.
Break down the strategy that you see. So I want to see if you see what I see.
Well, from my end, for the woman, it's like, okay, maybe this was a traumatic thing, maybe it wasn't. My bigger issue is it's not like this guy was a nobody, right? He's being voted into the Supreme Court, so my knowledge of that means he had a career, and a damn good one at that. So now when we have this climate and she comes out, of course it looks suspect. It automatically looks suspect, no matter what you want to believe or think. If you approach it rationally, it's like, why now? On the other end, if I'm defending myself against such attacks, because right, that's what it is. That's the attacker. They had the first move. They went, you did this. He's got to respond. She's white, he's black. If this is a chess game, and so as an attacker, my first thought is, well, how do I neutralize this attack? And then once I survive neutralizing it, I reverse it, and I got to make it look, because that's the only way you win the game. When you start off from behind, you have to neutralize the attack and then go forward. Now I don't know what their words were. Once again, I wasn't following it, but whatever he did or said, it looks like he successfully enough anyhow turned did that. It was like, okay, you said this, here's that, and then here's this, and then so at some point along the way, I feel like there was something I saw floating around in my Twitter sphere about a polygraph or something of that nature. Then
this is what I've seen. This is what my research has shown me. And even though we cannot separate what this action is, I want to for a second separate the action. I want to step back and say, the political party at hand, one of the things that I found that made this thing such a horrible, ugly thing is that apparently this woman made light of the issue long before this political issue popped up. She made it a point to talk about this. The problem is the political party decided to sit on it, completely ignoring any pain that she may be going through as someone who may have survived a traumatic event in her life, until it was politically expedient. And that's one of the things that says everyone in this entire situation is a dirtbag. 100%.
For sure.
Everybody's a dirtbag.
That reminds me. Okay, I didn't know that, right? But that reminds me. I don't know how much you follow from where you're at. The police shootings that happen in this country, and right here in Pittsburgh where I live, they killed a kid, and the kid. Now here's what's crazy. They stopped the guy. And the reason why they stopped the car is because they had just been called for a drive-by, and that car matched the description, and some kid was just gunned down. Turns out at the end of the day, and this is relatively important, the weapon and the car, that was them, right? Now the kid takes off running, and some hot-handed cop goes off and shoots him 3-4 times in the back, kills him. Everyone's wrong here. Like, everyone is wrong, obviously. And
let me be clear. You said the kid that ran had in fact committed the crime.
Or he was, I don't know if he pulled the trigger, but the weapons that were in the car, there were 3 of them, they had, those guns were eventually tied back to the shooting. They killed the person they were called for, right? Then that's why that car was stopped.
There's no way for the policeman to know this. He just says,
yeah, there's no way for him to know. Yeah, he just sees a kid running, a black kid running, and shoots him in the back. So now it's I mean, that's about as fucked as it can get, right? Like, no one in the right mind argues that the officer should have done that, and no one in their right mind is going to say this kid is innocent. But no one can have a nuanced discussion about it, because everyone wants to. They're not interested in solving. They're interested in defeating the other side. They're interested in painting the picture that the other side is following a narrative or is a bad guy. When instead, people could, but they can't sit down and go, okay, here's what was messed up here. Let's move on it. It'll never happen. And I think about that because I remember it was happening here, and I could see all the aftermath, and then we get these second order effects. Somebody was down at a baseball game, I think it was, and they were rioting about the shooting, so they surrounded the guy's car and started harassing him in the car. Well, he decided he wasn't about that shit, and so he sped off and ran somebody over that was trying to get in his car and hurt his family. So who's wrong here? Right? It's hard to say, but no one wants like that nuance idea, man. You can't whenever you want to discuss these things, someone is immediately wants responsibility and catharsis instead of explanation and planning and prevention. Because
Right.
one takes
And
one.
that's the thing. It's like you have to be totally free in life to be able to even have that kind of nuance. And most people don't because they belong to a political party, generally speaking, that makes it very clear. Either you stick with us even when we do something dirty, or that's it. We won't.
Right.
Then we will make absolutely sure to hurt you as much as possible later down the road, even if that hurt is making sure you're independent. It takes a lot to be independent by choice. It's easier to make sure you're surrounded by people of like-minded thinking, but in return, you have to be one of those people that will silently agree that everybody in the position is wrong, but make absolutely sure they can never say that publicly. And in the case of something as horrible as a rape charge, they're putting all these other women in a situation where now, because we handled the ball so horribly, instead of being able to say, hey, someone called me, I immediately started an investigation, got on top of it to find it. It's, well, we wanted to sit on this until it was time.
So right, but and that backfires. I just look at strategy. That's a horrible strategy because it immediately the longer you wait, the worse it looks when you do say something, especially if you time it with an event. You already give the opponent their counter tools. I mean, it's almost it's mind boggling, really, that people don't sit and think about the second or third order. And maybe it's because that kind of thinking naturally comes to me, and I can sit and look at it and go, okay, why you thought this was a good idea? It's like in the election. I'm always saying if they, I tried to tell people this, and it's amazing. No one to listen. I said if you really want to make sure that Trump doesn't get elected, just stop going to his rallies and acting a fool. Just stop it.
You know what? Back up for a second. My buddy Craig Washington just said in the chat 2 minutes ago, he said modern day tribalism. And that is, shout out to Craig Washington in the chat. He's absolutely right. It's tribalism. It's, I'm going to have to stick with my tribe no matter what. And does the modern era in 2018, is that simply a remnant of who we once were? Or do we still need to have that tribalism? Because to be clear, I often talk about, I'm going to pull a deep reference on this one. There was the one Pirates of the Caribbean where they called the Kraken.
And,
and they played a game, gambling dice. And instead of gambling,
I remember that one.
You would gamble years of your life. And this guy said 10 years. I think he said 10 years before the mask. Well, in order to have my freedom, I purchased my freedom very young in life, meaning I tell everyone that comes to me, especially young people who will say, hey, how do I get where you are? How do I have the freedom to run a company, big or small? How do I have the freedom to not be in debt so I can save a little bit, be it in Bitcoin or whatever? How can I get there? How can I get there? And the one thing I tell them is you got to put in the work ahead of time. It's, when I'm in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class and I see a black belt do something that I'm totally forbidden to do because I am not nearly good enough to pull it off. Well, how do I do that? 10 years of doing it the right way, selling your ass for 10 years. And I tell everyone they should prostitute themselves out to the most successful person in their business or company in their business for the first 10 years. Do it while you're young after college.
That is, yeah, what would you be? You'd be my age right now, 30, well, I'm 33, 32, 33. Yeah.
Yeah, and and when you do that, you learn all the tools that the master has. If our master is that corporate dollar, and then you get to learn. I had a phenomenal mentor who worked with me during the first half of my career as a financial professional. My ability to deal with people, my ability to conduct business, my ability to keep track of my business, my ability to be the best professional I can be for my clients. A lot of that I attribute to him because he taught me all the things that college can't. In return, what did I do? I was one of the top producers he had for as long as I could be. I made sure I brought money home to the company. And then when it was time, I cut the umbilical cord because now I've got the knowledge. The trick is, it's very tempting to stay, especially when money is good and you have a situation where you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to know where your next client is going to come from because you've got corporate name behind you. B, you've got a situation where you've already built up a business in one area. Now you can kind of sit back a little bit. But most people don't want to do that. That's sometime between, let's call it for everybody, let's call it around the 30 to 35 age when you've done something for 10 years. This is the perfect time because you're not so invested that you can't get away. You're not so invested that you can't get away, but most people won't. Most people will. And then later on in life, as they hit that other stage, say, well, wait a minute. How is it that I don't have to do this? How is it that I don't have to, I'm not allowed to have the same freedoms that he does. And that's the answer. That's just straight up the answer. Walk away early.
Well, 10 years right out of college, that's an interesting number. I think, there's an amount of time you serve for any type of internship and you learn some skills or whatever. But more than the comfort and like, okay, right. People, if you put the average person in a situation like that for 10 years and you see things going well for 10 years, they're going to get to that 10-year mark and their thought process is going to be the complete opposite. It's not going to be, I can branch off. It's going to be, I've got such a good thing. Why would I leave this? That comfort is really addicting. Like the one thing that really broke me out of ever going back. Because a lot of people don't know this, even though I fought, I'm still under contract. And then I was thinking that then when I lost, I wasn't under contract and I had to get a job, or so I thought, to live. Well, no one would hire me given my situation. I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree. No one wanted to bring me on.
Given the situation, what do you mean? You mean your situation as a professional boxer?
No, with school. Because I was gonna finish my degree. I was already 100 credits in, so I wasn't gonna delay and like work full time and just keep putting that off. I was like, work too hard and come too far. But at part-time wages and part-time hours, I wasn't gonna be able to survive. So really, I had to figure out. I had to learn, had to hustle, prices, all that, and to break free and get my first client and produce my first thing online. I had to learn it under duress. It was a baptism by fire. It's the kind of thing, if I could go back and do it over again, I would not do it. Right? Not even unless I like knew what the outcome was. I would not go through because it was so uncomfortable, but I really had no choice. I was, pushed over the edge. A lot of people, and I would like to think, that was always my goal, to be free. I interact with a lot of people. Freedom is not their goal. Security is their goal. Ooh. And you go 10 years and you are very secure. To give that up would be counter to the goal. They'd be like, I worked this long for them. Why would I branch off? They don't see. I got a lot of friends like that right now who have ability and they've been in their industry, high earners, and they wouldn't even dream of leaving and start their own thing. Talking about it because it's romantic to sound, but then when the rubber meets the road, you're like, I got to give up the income. I got to the short income. I got to give up the health insurance and the benefits. I'm going to be out here on my own. I'm not going to have Big Daddy Corporation to take care of me.
Big Daddy Corporation.
Most people ain't ready for that. In fact, I would argue that, 99%. Yeah. You're taking risk. You're taking huge risk.
Well, and this is where, and if we can go segue, This is where that whole the way our capitalist government in the United States works is so unique in that it ties your financial security and your health security to a company instead of saying everyone deserves it. Because by the way, anybody who's listening, I've lived in so many countries around the world from top to bottom, from rich to poor. I can tell you the concept of not having health care for all citizens is barbaric compared to the stunning and overwhelming number of people in the world. It's considered absolute savagery because it is. And it puts people who ordinarily would be in a situation where they could break off and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go find myself a career in something that I want to do and do it for myself. Never able to. Never. It's never an option. They'll never be able to do it. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful to know that, to know for certain that you can't be in a situation where you can separate your physical health from the simple ability to be able to just go out and try to find something.
Right. And those are the golden handcuffs of America, right?
Yep.
You know, people, I haven't lived in any other country yet. I've just been to a few. And here's my immediate take, and then you can confirm, deny, you know, rebuff where appropriate. My immediate take is America is great, but it's not, but no other places. I mean, Canada doesn't feel much different. France doesn't feel much different. I'm talking about the developed places I've been to, not like the DR and parts of Colombia. Portugal didn't feel that much different. Like I didn't go there. I wasn't looking around at people when I didn't feel a restriction of human rights and opportunity. You know, everything that I wanted here was there. So the question is, you know, why does it have to be that way? What makes America this kind of holy grail? And this isn't like some kind of push for people who want to be expats, but you raise a great point, is that we pay a heavy toll in this country, but most people don't even travel. I read that like 40% of us have our passport. Most people don't travel, so they don't even know. Forget live someplace else when they're young, because that, you know, expats are generally an older community. They have no idea.
I disagree.
You think the majority of expats are under 40?
No, well, let me think this through before I say it. Let's get into a quick definition of terms.
Okay.
When you say expat, do you mean someone visiting a country?
I say someone that has made their residence there on at least a semi-permanent basis. So we'll say 3 months out of the year minimum of one place living. You know, they have an address and all that good stuff in another country.
This is where things get murky because there are so many who start out at a certain age doing it, and then after a certain point, they just stay there. They just go ahead and get it. You know,
I see what you're saying. So, okay, yeah. A matter of not necessarily measuring at the moment, but if we look at people who would venture out and then we go over like a 5-year range, what is the age split and demographic breakdown?
Right.
Sure. So, but mixing up.
But here's, you know what? I'm going to give you that. I'm going to say, you know, most of the people who, when they start out, you're right, definitely under. There are very few, but here's the weird part: it's growing, particularly,
which is great, man. And technology is making it very easy, and it's showing people another thing, man. which is what I love.
Yeah, that technology is putting everybody in a situation where you can actually see that there is another way. And what's interesting is a 20-year-old may have a little bit of a struggle when they go to move. However, a 30-year-old with a career behind him doesn't even, when you have a little bit of experience and some education, now you're in a different situation. You can say, you know what, a few months from now, I think I'm just going to go. I think I'm going to be that guy in another country.
I 100% agree that ability-wise, for you know, we look at averages, someone in their 30s is going to be easier than someone in their 20s. From a psychological perspective, I think if you spend 5 to 10 years working and building what they call career capital, right? Like you can, then it's amazing how many people still believe that like you can't have gaps in your resume. And maybe that is true, right? The point is, whether it's true or not, they believe it, so they don't want to have those gaps. So for them to pop off without their company going, I'm going to send you somewhere, and then they get there and they got to pick up a job there, I think most people aren't doing that. Or rather, the older they get, if that's their first time off, the less likely it is they're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But going back to where it was in the beginning, when we talked about that freedom of travel, one of the biggest things that I keep finding out now, particularly when you're free to have nuance, when you do meet someone, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who said to me, wow, I can't wait to move to the country of India because I meet so many other smart engineers there. And he was saying it as a compliment to a buddy of mine who's from India. And he stopped and he looked at him and he said, I don't think you understand. You're not meeting the average Indian. When you meet me, when I meet people from India, when my friends meet someone from India, it's a guy with a double PhD in theoretical math and an engineer in something else, and he owns this and he owns that. He says, you don't seem to understand. The ones who make it out are the high exception. And we started talking about it, and we said, what's interesting is I have yet to go any place in the world where Black American isn't, hey, we love you guys. Because they're never going to see the stunning majority who, due to circumstance or their own doing, we can argue that later, can't make it out. And they look at us and I'm going to go to America and I'm going to go move in a Black neighborhood because you guys are awesome. And they're like, let's
like, whoa, slow down. You know what?
At the same time, you're an immigrant, so you're not safe in a white neighborhood either. So,
that reminds me of somewhere when I was just in Colombia and someone had take that stat or that piece of information. I was just in Colombia and put that off to the side. Somebody had said in the Negro Manosphere about how I think 8% of us have our passport, black males from America. And I was like, how'd they get that number in it? Because the State Department doesn't report by race. And then I went and figured it out because they do report who has it, and then you extrapolate by the percentage of that number. And yeah, all right. So about 8% of black males, probably a little less because things don't quite scale that way. Here's how I knew that, here's how I knew we ain't traveling, right? This blew my mind. Every time I would interact with somebody of a darker skin complexion, one of the street hustlers on the street. They would actually say, "Yo, man," they kept saying, "Mi color, look, man, you like me," and I was like, "Wow," because to hear that, I was like, "Man, that's crazy, right? They don't see other Black people? Well, of course they see other Black people. They don't see another person that they hear who speaks English." And not with an accent, but like an American, they don't meet a lot of Blacks. Now it was weird because I met down there. We ran into what, four Black people. Now, granted, it was 3 women, 1 dude. But in terms of the Black Americans leaving the country, yeah, the ones that make it out and decide to go, well, they put themselves in a position. They've got the mindset and the wherewithal and the means to go travel. So they're not the representative. They're not the Black people I grew up with, right? It ain't nothing like that. And that's
hold on. I gotta go off the record for a minute. Brother Ed, I gotta go off the reservation for a minute.
Off the reservation, okay.
I just got a message from a dear friend who asked about the background and moved those jackets. And I'll have this is not a jacket. This is my motorcycle jacket, even though I don't have a motorcycle in São Paulo, Brazil, and this is my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gi. So I don't put stuff up in the background for decoration. I can't move them because that's where they are in my house.
Move those jackets.
A couple of people have said, why don't you get a background or something? And I was like, why? People are tuning in because I might be saying something interesting. It's not, it ain't pretty.
Right. Like, I mean, my house is a relative mess right now. And I'm just, okay, cool. Because I love my little bag. I'm surrounded. We moved up here last year and we downsized because the apartment was half as big. We didn't need all the space we had. And more importantly, we were both experiencing a surge in our income. And this place was half as much. So my money effectively doubled, right?
Right.
But I love it. I'm sitting here. I'm surrounded by books. My cats are floating around. I'm looking out the window. When we were trying to set this thing up earlier, and I was on the other side with the window behind me, and that glare was killing. I can see. You know, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I got the Fire Stick just in case I do on the TV over there. My kitchen's on the other side. I got a bedroom and a closet full of clothes. Man, it's a great setup. And but the background, you got a lot of background. That and you know what? Right? Somewhat of a related note. It's authentic, man. Like if you tune in and there was a goddamn skyline, or I had like some fountains in the back, you know, some fake shit. Like, nah, you'd be like, what the who is this guy? Like, no, man, that's regular old me. Here's my fireplace and some. I got, what is this? This is all Agatha Christie. I talk about all the time how my girl's mom, every time we go to see her, she gives us Agatha Christie books. So I got a bunch of Agatha Christie. I got all my language and math stuff to the right. Over there, the stuff you see on the wall is stuff from her family, different portraits from the places she's been around the world as well. And you know, it's just all the background is part of the authenticity. It allows, if my background was fake or his background was fake, you'd be like, who are these jokers? I just like to keep it real. But yeah, man. Oh yeah, we were talking about the typical black people that travel. Yeah, you know, I got a lot of. I don't know how much you, because I know we've talked about this before, about how much of your people you keep in contact with. Yeah, and by your people, I mean your family. You keep in contact with here back in the States. But I you know, talk to my family and all that, and I'll tell you what, man. None of I got one cousin. I know she been to Singapore one time. Other than that, I don't. Let's put it like this. I got most of my family hasn't even been on an airplane before, let alone to another country. And you know, there's a lot of places to get to in the United States, and it ain't ever happened. So we're not most of us ain't going anywhere, man. It just is what it is.
It looks like Roxana has an opinion. I love Roxana. She has her own channel. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to put the challenge out there. She said, I think it'll be interesting to talk about first-generation Black Americans who are avid travelers because their parents were immigrants. My parents were not first-generation immigrants. Were yours, Ed?
Oh, no. They were, no, definitely not first gen. I know my grandma, her mom, so whatever that is, yeah. So far back enough to not matter. But they were from Hades. But we are 100%, as far as I know, thoroughbred hood people. Like we were. I get my. I got.
Grimy. I'm totally the opposite.
On my mom's side, I got two generations deep in the projects. On my dad's side, you know what? My dad's side is mad interesting because my dad and my uncle Mike, they got out and got far, man. My dad actually ended up with his master's degree in business, and my uncle Mike started a multi-million-dollar trucking company.
Wow.
And then on the other end, we got my aunt Shelly and my uncle Steve. They ain't doing as good as the others. They're not like crackheads or some shit. They're just, but you can see the effect in their kids, and that's where it gets interesting. But it's just a sharp contrast of where and what opportunities were made available. But not first generation. I don't think I know. I think my buddy Cam, who you were trying to get on the show, I think his parents are first generation, because I know when the Olympics were coming up, when we were amateurs, he was exploring the idea of fighting under England, which you can do. Like if you don't qualify for your country, if you can trace bloodline to another one. But that was the year that Anthony Joshua showed up, and he was like, there ain't no way I'm gonna be able to beat that guy, and went another way. But yeah, that's an interesting. I don't know if you. I mean, I'm sure you know somebody who is. You got some people who are first gen.
Well, going back to what you said. Well, I'm fortunate. My parents. I never lived in a project.
That's bad, dude. I just love how you said that. A project. That
I
made
don't
me
know
laugh.
what that's like. I don't know what that's like. I mean, don't get me wrong. My family was not by any means rich. We definitely came from a very blue collar situation, and I worked myself into a white collar lifestyle and career. But I never did that. So, and I'm also not. What I do want to do is I do want to have Roxana on next time, because what she said about talking about first generation Black Americans who are avid travelers. That's a bit. Oh, by the way, everybody who's watching right now, click the like button. I don't know exactly how it's going to affect things in the future, but I think it may get the program out to more people later. I'm going to find out how it goes. But
Yeah,
what
yeah. Apparently, they voted better if people are liking it. I'm gonna retweet right now, get people in.
Yeah. So what I'd like for everyone to take a second to do is to click the like button, because that matters.
I really love this technology we have and how we can just leverage everything, man. Every single thing. It's mind boggling. Someone said I made a comment today in jest to somebody about paying rent. Every now and then, somebody will complain about their job, and I always type, um, "What the fuck is a job?" And I'm just being silly, right? But it's funny what having time freedom and very little debt bills can do. People will think you have money, and I'm like, nah, man. I just have my time and I don't waste it. Very little debt
You know what?
bills
What you just said.
can do. People will think you have money, and I'm like, nah, man. I don't know if you heard that, but it was over. It was coming through. I accidentally clicked on the stream, and then it started playing. But yeah.
No, what I was saying is that whole people think you're rich. I have some people who have known me since childhood who have confided in me, and some have said it in a very accusatory way that I must have some stockpile of money that.
Yeah, I know exactly what. Yep.
Realize that just because I work for myself doesn't mean I don't work. There's still the word work in there. Like, I have a career as a financial, not financial anymore, I've said that for so many years, but as an editor, a copy editor, and proofreader. It doesn't mean that I don't work. It just means I work for myself, and people don't want to hear that part.
And shit, you work hard. People don't want to. You work harder. There's no time off.
Well, here's the thing. There are a couple of factors that I think, for better or for worse, the way society is constructed, that you and I have in common. I mean, I'm not asking you to confirm or deny anything. I'm just going to go on assumption.
Okay.
First, I know we have in common, we're men. Okay. Educated. The last two are the kickers, though, for me. And this is something that I knew the value of before I went into the financial business for about 10 years, but something that I didn't really get to see until I started to rapidly approach maturity. I'm 41 years old now, but right around 30, I saw, oh, this is what matters. I have no credit card debt, and I have no children. Now, I'm not going to say no children. Let me back up. You can have children. I found that people can have children if they plan for them. Anyone who has an unplanned child, it's a very difficult road to hoe. It's a very difficult road to hoe. And that's one of those things that it's such a difficult thing to talk about, because I was 24 when I tore up my credit card and I realized, oh, this is evil.
Well, I don't have any children, and I don't have any credit card debt. I have a little student loan debt, but if you leverage that against my savings, because pretty much, I mean, I treat student loan debt like I don't think about it because obviously it's there and I gotta pay it. But there's so many ways to extend it and ignore it. It's just, I just keep it and pay and deal with it. But if I was to like liquidate my savings and pay it all off, yeah, that's why I say, like, while I have some debt, I'm much more interested in keeping the money in my bank account, because what good does it do me to pay off the student loan debt if all of a sudden my car breaks down? I can't go, oh man, I just paid this debt off, I'm good for it. Like, nah, I'm gonna just keep that there.
Yeah, that's the kicker. It's that whole the interest rate of the money, the interest rate of the loan is still less than the amount you get, even an opportunity cost from keeping that liquid cash. But you can see how that's had these weird effects on the economy, you know. And as a financial pro, I remember talking to many people many times, and I had to say to them discreetly, "Yeah, don't pay this."
And it's one of those things that's funny you said that as a guy who worked in the biz, because my whole thought process as a person who is affected, I mean, not effectively, is self-employed, is I don't know. I always, I'm always going to work and hustle, but I don't know when the next payday is, right? Like I know it should be, like, I know I should get paid a little bit every day, but I don't know. I mean, maybe there's an off month. Maybe the coalition decides to shadow ban me, whatever, and people can't find me. Point
Did you
is,
say the coalition?
oh yeah, the coalition. I give them names. I don't like the Illuminati, right? I call it the coalition. All right, they may decide to shadow ban me, whatever. No matter what, I don't have a guarantee next day. I don't have a guarantee next job. So every little bit I get extra, I just squirrel it away, And if I'm ever left with the option to buy time as opposed to like lump sum pay, I look at it and go, okay, well, I'll take a little time. But I pay back, like when I got my car. I didn't pay the whole thing off immediately. I don't know if you've seen the new car I got. I got a cool little Cadillac. I love my car. I bought it.
Wow, you stereotypical black person.
And I bought it in a pinstripe suit. No, I'm just.
How dare you?
But yeah, so that car was only 17 grand, right? I didn't pay for it all up front. What I did was I paid as little as they would allow me to do with the loan, and then I asked, "Is there an early repayment penalty?" And they said no. So I took it and I just waited and I worked, and I jumped ahead, and it's all paid off now. Like I could have bought it then, but it's what is it, October? It's all paid off now. But my thought process was, okay, May is the 5th. There's 5 months in between. I don't know what'll happen, but let's prepare for the worst. Let me buy myself some extra time, and every time I get ahead, we'll pay into it. Because worst case, like absolute worst case, like there's an emergency. Maybe I gotta move out. Me and my girl, but decide, that's it. I gotta get a new spot. I gotta come up with a security deposit, whatever. I always just want to keep some bread on me as opposed to tied up somewhere else. Now it's all, it's gone. I mean, or now I'm selling it if I need need to liquidate cash out of it. But I won't have to. So my whole thought process with money. Avoid credit, because dude, I never thought about it. This is one of those things you learn the hard way, being ignorant coming up, right? I didn't realize how much interest they charge on credit cards. I'm not gonna pay 25 cents to use $1. That's crazy. So I try and stay away from that. And I try. I mean, I do.
One of the things that when the housing crisis hit, it caused these huge financial ripples. I will never forget being in the office with one of my clients to witness something that I thought only happened to other people, not my clients, not my people. We were in his office discussing a contract. The phone rings. His secretary says, "You need to take this." He says, "All right, well, hold on, Watt. Let me take this call." Yeah, that is my account number. Your what? Hold on, let me check my records. But I don't have any outstanding balances with your company at all. Okay. You have a good day too. See, what they started doing was canceling the accounts of anybody who wasn't. Well, let me rephrase that sentence. They were canceling the accounts of people who were paying off all their debt before they could incur any interest.
Yeah.
When the banks started to pull in their belts and really say, I need to save on money and how can I take it? The people who were paying off their debt, well, they just had it taken. And one of the things you learn very, very quickly is they only want you if they know they can get you.
Yep. If you the worst customer for a drug dealer is somebody who's not an addict. You want somebody who needs your stuff. I was talking to a buddy of mine about how he got his credit score right, and he said he used to be a drug dealer, which is how this kind of came up. I wanted to just see how he thought about the credit game versus the drug game. And one of the things he said, he was like, "Look, when you when you go to get credit and you just keep paying, yeah, they'll move it slow. But if you wait a really long time till you owe and then you pay it all off and incur some interest, rather than, and I saw this happen to me once, rather than them go, all right, man, we're done with you, you suck, they give you more credit.
Right.
They're like, okay, he's good for using it and he'll pay it back eventually. Let's get him on the hook line because obviously something happened, at least from their perspective, something happened to make it possible for him to pay us back. So we know he's good for it. Let's get him on the hook for some more work, as he said. Let's get him some more work in the street, so we got more leverage on him.
And that's the terrifying part. It's that when you realize, it's not a game, it's not an accident. They 100% know exactly what's going on, and this is how they want to play the game. You find out very, very quickly that, part of that being a free man, it's not a matter of, I'm going to go on the plus side and own my own business. It's you're free when you don't owe anyone anything. And so what I say to people is, I have a dear friend who I called about a Bitcoin issue that I was having, and I said, let's do this Bitcoin thing together. He calls me back the next day. He says, listen, I did some research. I actually retraced some things that you talked about. This is a great idea. Well, we can make this money, but I can't go in on this deal with you. I said, did you just not tell me this was a good idea? But he said, I have a wife and a child. So if we get caught in that narrow alley between success, and in between there is, oh, we just lost our money. He said, what? You can absorb that loss because maybe you'll just eat chicken and bread sandwiches, that money back. He says, you can do that. You can say, hey, guess what? I'm gonna have to enjoy this water and chicken sandwich to make up that money.
Good, yeah.
Be good with it and not even be mad because I took a chance. But he said, when you have a child, there's no way I can come back to him saying, Dad could have made this big killing, but didn't work out that way.
You know what that reminds me of? I was reading about the samurai. And when the samurai served the Lord, to make sure the samurai didn't go off and be, decide he was going to be a Ronin in his own thing, they had that motherfucker's family live in the court. So if you decide you want to break free, that's cool. We're just going to kill your kids and your wife. Well, probably do some other stuff to your wife before we kill her. But yeah. So don't go getting the ideas. And that's the thing, man. When you got people, that's why, look, I want to have children one day, but I said I'm not having children until two things. One, I can afford them, right? And two, till I've experienced enough of the world on my terms to where when they're here, I can just make it about them. I don't want to be sitting there with my kid going, man, or resentful. Like, I would have loved to seen like an orchestra play in Austria, but this little motherfucker is sick with the flu. Like,
wait, did you just refer to your future child as this little mother?
And that's how I would feel if I had kids, but I hadn't got a chance to get the freedom, right? Because if you're gonna put yourself like your boy in that bond, he's aware. He's like, look, man, this seems great. I can take this big ass risk. I'm free. He ain't free anymore. And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm sure he loves his family, or at least I hope so. But he can't, because he loves his family and he's got a responsibility to them, he can't go off and do what he wants. So the minute you get somebody else tied up to you, or any kind of responsibility like that, then they own you. They don't own you, they own the other, something that could hurt you if it was hurt or harmed. And the credit people, back to what we were saying, the credit people know this, man. I'm telling you, I'm sure Chase Bank is mad as hell. I paid off a 3-year loan in 5 months. I'm sure they're not happy about that. because all that interest gone. So, and I'm sure it's going to ruin I'm sure it's going to hurt my credit score as opposed to help.
Well, did you know? Well, here's another thing about your credit score. Did you know that you can go online and find all kinds of legal, how would I put it? Legalese about money, finance, and banking. But how a credit score is calculated is a
nobody will tell you.
No one will ever publish it. My personal conspiracy theory that I've seen played out over years, it's a moving goalpost. They decide what a good number to have is, and then change the criteria depending on the economy.
Yep. That makes sense. Because look, man, I don't know if you've ever seen like an algorithm for anything related to like search and design and then these things they use for the internet. And people are smart enough to reverse engineer this shit to the point where they have to change how they go about doing it. Now they can't change it too much because at that point, you know, it won't serve its function. So I don't want to say we're like peak SEO, but as long as you know do the right things and make sure your content is easy enough to find and read through, you'll be good. Days of the tricks are long gone because people kept figuring it out. Now they just play it honest. Credit card company, not so much. They don't have to play it on. Like imagine if they just hand you a document when you turned 18. You do this thing and you do this, and you'll be at 800. You do this, you're gonna be at 350, and you do this, you'll be everywhere in between. That would give people such a clear path to, I guess, to good credit, which you know we know is a good situation. But they don't do that, and they don't make it easy. And if they just tell you some general stuff, and that's got to tell you that either it's got to tell you one of two things: it's not in your best interest to have a good credit score, or it's not in their best interest, or rather, it's not in their best interest really for you to have a good credit score. For whatever reason, the more people that have good credit, the worse off their dollars are, and I don't know why that is, but.
Well, I'm actually going to go a little bit farther, dear brother Ed, and say you're wrong. Having a good credit score means nothing. Credit is one of those things that I have found the more successful you are, the less you will ever use it. It doesn't matter. When you have found your own financial security, you don't need anyone's credit score.
That's a good point. I was talking to my landlord. I said, yo, what would you do if my credit score was 450, but I said, here's a month's rent up front? Our year's rent up front. He said he'd have to think about it. I mean, and then I said, what about 500? He goes, oh, no, you're in. Because I guess like below a certain point, you know, these guys using it as proxy indicators based on their own experience. But the point is he had to think about it. As opposed to it just being outright, no, you're not in, and that's supposed to be one of those criteria. It's like, well, you got the money. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
And that's the thing, you know. I don't even know how to even. It's difficult to have conversations like this because what I'm saying sounds so counterculture. I'm sure there's someone in the chat right now who is going to have a lot to say about it, and I'm welcome to have a discussion. I'm welcome to have a free discussion with anyone. Everybody here knows that.
Oh, for sure.
But the problem is you learn so many people get themselves into a situation early in life where they're invested in that fundamental belief that credit is a thing. That if I have good credit, my life is better. Well, here's what they don't tell you about having a credit score. No one tells you that credit is a privilege and not a right. No one, excuse me, nobody tells you credit is a privilege and not a right. And I would have clients in my office and they would say, well, let me explain to you why I need credit. And I'll say, well, every time you explain something to me, I'm going to explain to you why you don't. What if my car breaks down? They would say, what if my car breaks down and I need to buy a new widget to put in the thing? Now, I don't know how cars work. For all I know, there could be a small dragon in the steering wheel. And when you put the steering, it pokes the dragon in the belly. The dragon laughs. He blows fire and your car goes. Okay, that's my understanding of how combustion works. But I said, tell me about your last car. Oh, my last car was a so-and-so and it lasted 10 years. Okay. Didn't you think that car was going to last forever? They were like, well, no, cars break down. So if we know the car you have now break down in the future, why don't we put some money away for it instead of depending on a credit card that may or may not be there? And they'll say, well, you're just saying that because you want me to invest with you. I'm saying that because I want you to invest with me because it's going to mean money for you later and a great client for me now. And there's no comeback because it's true. There's no comeback to that. You know? And they talk about, well, what happens if I do this? And what happens if I do that? And I always come back to them with, why do you want to depend on someone who may take it away later for your security? And these are men who are successful businessmen, blah, 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 blah. And they would always come back to me, well, I need credit for this. Why do you want to put your financial security in the hands of anyone other than yourself? And so when people talk about having a good credit score, my question is why? People say, well, what's your credit score? I don't know. You don't know? I said, no, I froze my credit. Do you remember when I wrote about freezing credit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I froze my credit and locked my credit score years ago. I mean, I don't even know. And they're like, well, how could you function without it? Easy. I don't have any credit cards. Well, what do you do if you need money? I go into the mayonnaise jar I keep hidden in the magical force. And by magical force, that's it could be any place. It could be Bitcoin. It could be under the mattress. It could be a cash bearing account that I have. But I'm not going to put myself into a position where I have to, and this is where the ego comes in. I'm not going to humble myself to any government or financial institution and say, hey, listen, there's this thing I want. I just can't get it. Now, there have been times when I've leveraged some things, like I bought a house and I ended up selling it at a profit. But when I bought, and I didn't flip the house, so to speak, I used it for a while and then I sold it. But at the same time, when people say, well, I can't afford to buy a house right now, you're right. But is that house a money-making venture for you? Are you using that house as a business tool? Or is it just, hey, me and my wife, even though we have no kids, we want this 4-bedroom dream house? Well, how does that even work?
Right.
How do you even get to that point?
This reminds me of that. Every now and then I entertain this argument because it's a fun one. The rent versus buy argument.
Now here we go.
Oh man, and after hearing, because one of the true blessings of Twitter is that I get to hear so many different opinions. I mean, so many of different walks of life and people in different situations. And what I've come to realize is this. There is, and people won't hate this because it bothers their feelings. There is no real advantage either way. If you want to talk about you have a thing you own at the end. I mean, do you own it? I mean, yeah, you own the structure that it was built on that has no value should you lose the land that you pay taxes on. So is it ownership in the sense that you don't have to pay anyone ever again? No, I mean, I own my car. I got it once it's done. I mean, shit, if I take the wheels off it and store it somewhere, I don't have to pay insurance. Somebody brought that up. In other words, right? Someone brought, and the reason I said it is someone brought that up one time when I was making the argument about how you own your car once you pay it off. You don't own your home. But people love to make the argument that, man, you go in debt and you get this thing and eventually you'll have it paid off and you'll own it and it's yours. And at the end of the day, you don't own it. You're still, they in my opinion, it's one of the greatest hustles they figured out. They've got you borrowing a lot of money to buy a thing, which is a useful thing. I mean, I don't see how it is structurally different than renting, but we'll say it's a useful thing. And then you're convinced that now you've got this thing you paid in your whole life, and maybe one day you'll be able to take the equity out of it and use it for something. But in the meantime, you still got to pay rent. You're still paying every year. You're still paying rent. Now that's a different kind of rent, but it's still rent. Meanwhile, if you rent a home and somebody was like, well, what if the landlord is going to make sure that he gets his money back on the rent, so you're still losing? I'm like, no, because that's not how rent works. Inputs don't decide the rent. The neighborhood decides the rent, which
right.
is why, and people don't get that. It's one of those things that where you really think and break it down, because the unique thing about me, whether it was, because of how I was brought up or how I am now or a combination of the two, I just follow facts. I do not have a feeling invested. People think I'm joking when I say I don't really have any opinions. I mean, there are some things where I can argue for, or more likely to argue for because of my temperament, but I don't have an opinion. All I did was just look at it and keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. And at the end of the day, if even if you want to sit someplace for 25 years, because of the way the law is set up, at least in this country, you're probably better off letting somebody else handle all the problems that come with it.
Right.
Okay, and that and if you want to get up and go, you can get up and go. You don't have to. I got a buddy right now who's dealing with a night. I mean, it's a true nightmare. He bought a house and then they moved, and not even in a year, and they can't sell the house, so they're paying on where they're at and where they were.
Well, wait. Why did they move? Why did they move before selling the house?
Oh no, this is a different conversation, but the TLDR is that somewhat impulsive, not his decision, and you can put that together how you want to put it together.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that is where that goes. But seeing that, I'm just like, wow, if you had just rented until you were, for a little while, you'd be okay. But you're not.
And you're right. And also, a lot of it comes down to, well, wait a minute. What kind of lifestyle do you live?
Right. And my argument was, even if you live a completely sedentary lifestyle, you have no interest in ever leaving, that what you gain in rent, and in my opinion, freedom is paramount. What you gain in rent, you don't have to worry about fixing things.
Right.
Yeah, you can't go around smashing up the walls, but I've never ever, I've lived in a lot of places in the country. I've never been like, man, you know what this place needs? It needs to take the damn wall out. Like I've just never had that thought. I'm not saying I wouldn't have it one day, but I just moved to another place that has what I want. But other than that, I mean, I don't get why you need to do it that way. Why you need to indebt yourself for a long time. I mean, mortgage literally translates into I think death package or something. Like to the end of your days, the typical mortgage is what, 20? They give these things out in decades, man. What they call that in prison terms? The football numbers. They get these things out. They get these things out in football numbers, man. Like you're not supposed to be free, and no one sees it that way.
And the thing is, things change, neighborhoods change. The decades we live in, there was a time when a house was a secure investment, but there was also a time when, by 25, you were going to have a wife and a first child. So it made sense for you. Now you have people like me, like you, that can just say, you know what, I have a career that's going to allow me, it's either going to take me to different places or allow me to be different places and just go.
And I might decide, like I've decided right now, because I'm not saying my mind is always going to stay this way. But right now, I don't want to be. I want to go and explore and see Europe, and I'm going to make the base, where my girl's from, where I can get citizenship from without marrying her. Make me walk. If living in Portugal, and and maybe I'll get over there, and I'll be like, man, I can't stand Europe. I got to get back to the States. Or maybe I'll get over and be like, why did this take so long? Point is, if I had bought a house, that wouldn't be possible.
So you're planning on doing the moving abroad thing to Portugal?
Yeah, that's where June is when we figured it would because I want to finish out this semester or this year with the students I have, and then after that I'm like, get yourself another tutor, But most of them be seniors anyway. Huh? I do not know any yet. I got to learn it. I've been putting all my time.
You two can come and hang out in Brazil.
Oh yeah, because it's funny. The teacher right now I have, because my Spanish is great. I could talk right now if I needed to, and I'm getting better, and I want to test for that before I leave. And like you said something to me one day in one of our chats before about how if you're gonna put all this time into studying the language, you should at least get something out of it, some certificate to show that you did it or whatever. Right. So that's my whole thought process now with Spanish. And I'm gonna but I started Spanish and I was moving along, and I said, all right, let me get this, and then I'm gonna learn Portuguese. But I listen to it sometimes. Her sister was up here staying with us, and we were watching some show where they were speaking Portuguese, and I could understand because her sister was 10 years older. She grew up over there entirely. My girl came over here when she was 12. But just so it sounds similar enough to where I don't think I'm gonna have that much of a problem picking up Portuguese once I'm done. Like, all right, I feel good with the Spanish, tuck in my brain for a little while, and then I'll break it out when we cross whatever that mountain range is. I can't remember. That separates Portugal and Spain.
Is it Gibraltar?
Gibraltar separates Morocco from Spain or the Iberian Peninsula. Yeah. I'll be in Morocco actually in a month. I'm excited about that.
What's going on in Morocco?
Oh, we just had an alert, or she had an alert set up, and she was like, "Oh, there's a flight from Marrakesh. Should I book it?" I'm like, "Yep." And so, because I don't have any I told her because she's always coming with these flights, and I'll go, "Okay, I'm not the restricted one here. If you just come to me and say, let's go someplace," and I told her my list of no countries, as long as it doesn't fall into my list of no countries, book it. Let's go.
Well, wait. Give me your top 10 no countries.
I'm not going to any place that operates under Sharia law.
Okay.
That pretty much. I mean, if I got to worry about ending up in prison for something I might, or for something I might do without thinking, I'm just not gonna chance it. And that was a big thing. I say if Morocco, because I know Morocco has a strong Muslim influence, if not a Muslim country, I said let me make sure that we'll be good. And there are certain cultural respects that are frowned upon of you, even if you're a foreigner. I was like, that's cool, we can work with that. I don't want to be in fucking. She wanted to go to Iran. I'm like, well, are you out of your mind? Like, why? She was like, oh, I see it looks so beautiful, and then like Tehran. I'm like, I'm sure it is, but you know what else is beautiful? Bogota. Let's go to Bogota, like so something like that. Bogota,
so yeah, for her to just say, that's not I don't know if that's a first choice destination for me.
Check it out. Here's how it's just so interesting how people's mind work on these things. We were talking because she went and did a lot of work in Asia for a little while, and so now she's completely turned off to Asia. So I said to her, I said, okay, just so I'm clear, what are you against all of Asia, mainland Asia, Southeast Asia? Like where is like, so we can put together some things if I see something. And she was like, well, what does Fiji? She was like, do the islands count? I was like, what do you mean? Like Fiji, Tahiti, Indonesia? Like, first of all, no, let's go with the non-Muslim country. I got nothing against the religion, obviously, but the law system is different. I'm not gonna put myself in a position where I might slip up and like hold her hand in public and be, I'm not 100% sure. For anybody listening who is like, oh, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Yes, I'm admitting that, but I do know that there are some places where things are a little too, or not a little, a lot different than here, and some things that I might do not even thinking about could bring undue attention, and I don't want undue attention when I go to another country and I don't speak their language.
And that's the other thing. It's like, how do you even deal with going to these places and there are so many things?
Right. So there's a big wide world. Maybe as I get bolder and get older, I'll change my mind, but unlikely. On top of that, Arabic is just brutal. Because that's another thing. Anytime I go someplace, I would like to have some working knowledge of at least a dialect or whatever. Like when we were in Portugal, I could read and understand some things. I couldn't have a conversation, but I knew when things were going on. I'd have my brain would just have to work on just a different level to pick up Arabic right now, and I do want
multilingual. Portuguese is the language that I focused on. But I always tell people, don't learn a language because other people want you to learn or think it's cool. Learn the one that's the right one for you.
Right. Learn what you like and enjoy. I'm relatively or rather, I'm fortunate that my brain picks up other languages in general, not just other ones that we want to talk, like math or computer languages, whatever. Something about that structure and the communication and interpreting meaning and moving from one way of expressing things to another. I do that definitely better than average. I'm not prepared to say excellent. I don't have a huge sample size, but the few that I've dabbled in have come to me relatively quickly, and making the sounds is always a blast.
Well, here's a question I have for you as someone who's a former professional boxer. Do you think it impaired your cognitive ability?
Okay, so here's what I think on the general and then me specifically. Generally speaking, the higher the weight division, the less chances or the lower the chances are of there being impairment, simply because you're not going to sustain that much damage. The real issue is over time. One shot, unless you're unlucky or you have like a genetic abnormality, one shot isn't gonna wreck you terribly. You do more damage to your brain, I think, in a night of drinking. However, if you're getting welled on in a welterweight match over 12 rounds, and you're 147 pounds.
Can you give us some numbers there, because you just say
heavyweight?
Oh,
right. My bad.
And for me, welterweight, I hear it in mixed martial arts terms because I follow the UFC and I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Give me weight so we understand contextually what we're talking about.
Welterweight in boxing, these are 147 pounds, right? And then in heavyweight boxing is anyone heavier than 201 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
Because at 5, so I guess I'm just genetically, I could never have been a boxer even if I wanted to, because my body is like a combination of a rhinoceros and a fire hydrant. It's and so because I was 200 and something pounds when I graduated high school at 17. So I know as an adult male, I would never have made it boxing, because for me to cut weight when I was in Thailand doing just training for amateur kickboxing, just in the house stuff. I won't insult my friends who are professional kickboxers by saying I was a kickboxer. They beat me down. They wanted me to get to 185, and I would just be crying.
Wow. So getting to 185, and how tall are you?
I'm 5'6". People think I'm bigger than I am because of why.
Yeah, there's no wow. 5'6", 185. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be in there with guys who are on average 185. I believe that is cruiser, maybe a little light, maybe like light heavy, I think. But those guys are like 6 feet tall.
Yeah. Well, why do you think I've always enjoyed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling? I want to get in, grab you by the leg, smash you to the ground, and
yeah, like I'm short for a heavyweight, to put that in percent, and noticeably short, like not like just kinda short for heavyweight. But yeah, man. So back to the original thing about whether that does. So the bigger you are, those shots are just gonna put you down. You're just not gonna be able to sustain that much. But you're also gonna be able to absorb more of the damage anyway. Or so bigger neck muscles, all that. Because the difference between a guy who's punching with great technique and who's strong, the difference between a guy who's punching at 140 versus 200. I mean, yeah, he'll have more momentum behind the punch, but in terms of force transmitted, the impact where the damage is really done, not that great of a difference. So I was a heavyweight, so I mean, I just didn't get hit in the head that much. I mean, the knockout I suffered, I didn't lose consciousness or anything, but even that, I mean, that's probably 10 other times I've been hit in the head. Maybe, and certainly like 3 or 4 at that level of intensity. If the further you go in the sport, not like the way they used to do it, but the way the refs are doing it now, yeah, I don't think you're going to sustain that much damage. They're erring on the side of caution now, to the point where sometimes the fights are not as, people are always asking that, did the ref have to stop it? Well, sure. I mean, I don't remember who the ref was. I think I want to say it was Ernie Sharif. Maybe he said about stopping fights. He's like, look, man, if the fighter dies later, but by like sustained brain damage, I'm gonna have to sit there and think that my decision to not stop this fight.
Right.
Now, if he dies, like, after it goes to the 12-round decision, whatever, okay, whatever. But if it's the fighter and he could have stopped that fight, he's like, I'm the one that has to sit there and get that weight on my conscience. Never mind the investigation afterwards, but how I'll feel about it.
Well, so the reason I was talking about that is I of course I follow mixed martial arts. I have friends who are mixed martial artists. I have a couple of buddies who are or currently and have been in the UFC, and we can talk about that later. And the UFC has had a big change. It started when Joe Rogan, who's a great commentator, comedian, he's a great social personality. He talked about what it was like to interview a fighter after a fight. Now, after a fight, of course, they interview the loser first to give him a chance to say, hey, it was a good fight. He was faster, or he was stronger, or you know what, he was just a better fighter tonight. But he noticed, how inhumane it was to see a man who had been knocked unconscious 5 minutes ago and then try to talk to him. Yep. And that's where a lot of it started. And, I don't know if you see the difference. Are you a mixed martial arts fan?
Yeah. I'm a big enough fan of where I can, I can notice general trends in the sport for sure.
When we talk about knockouts in boxing, it's usually this crisp, beautiful punch catching somebody right in that sweet spot, and the guy just takes a nap. I've been knocked out by a left-handed fighter in kickboxing, and I can tell you, I didn't feel a thing. I didn't. Right. Afterwards.
When I got dropped, when I got dropped in my fight, I said I thought I slipped because it doesn't hurt.
Right. Now compare that to mixed martial arts. When somebody in MMA knocks you out, if you get someone who gets a gable grip under your hips, picks you up, throws you down, climbs your body, and they pin, we call it the gift wrap. When they pin one arm behind this way, you can grab your arm. And this right here, boom, boom. You take 5 or 6 of those, it may be considered a knockout, but none of them are going to actually turn your lights off. You're just getting hit with a Louisville slugger in the side of the face.
Right.
Over 5 to 10 seconds of just bang, bang, bang. Because a straight punch doesn't carry enough distance. So they'll just elbow you, and you see these guys, and now they're really having referees stopping fights. A lot of fans are saying, oh, it's not like the old days. Of course not.
Right, where the fight didn't stop. The guy just didn't get the hell up. Or he tapped when he was. Yeah, it has changed because I used to be a huge fan in the so whenever I was like 22 to 26, I mean, I used to watch everything. So that would have been early 2000s, and then before then even they were letting stuff go, man, and it is not that way. Even when it made the transition. Remember when there was no weight class, right? Back when, and it was just a bunch of guys getting together in a fucking broke down hangar somewhere, and somebody had a camera somehow in the stream feed, and that's what it was. And before it could get to TV, they had to clean it up, and then they had to clean it up even more.
Right, but that's when you talk about those knockouts and about fighters sustaining damage over time. I think mixed martial arts got the reputation for maybe being safer than boxing because of the wrestling aspect. But we're finding out there is no safe way to get punched in the head. Or when you train in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like I am a casual practitioner. I've done a few citywide tournaments. I've won a few silver medals. I've won a few gold medals in local small city tournaments in the United States back in Las Vegas. I have friends who went the pro route, and they go professional Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've seen men get their arms and shoulders dislocated because when you're fighting for a $5,000 check and someone wraps your arm up in a kimura,
you're not about to tap.
And they get that torque on it. I've seen men walk away with their shoulder snapped out because I don't know if you know anyone who's had that kind of injury. Once you pop a joint out, it's never 100% secure again. It's always going to be kind of loose. And sometimes it's a small thing. They can continue fighting. Other times, I know guys that if you bump them while you're walking down the street, their shoulder will pop. Wow, people who had their vertebrae grinded down because there are certain especially painful ways to submit someone, where you've seen a choke when someone chokes someone cleanly. But if you put this around someone's chin, you can very easily just turn sideways. Their body stays looking this way, but their head turns that way.
Oh man. So yeah, we used to say, not we used to say, me and my friend and I always talking about which one is tougher, which one is harder, boxing or MMA. We used to say, you know, the only way out of a boxing match is to the end of it or getting beat down. MMA, you can get, you know, tapped out, and then, you know, that's still got its own set of damages. But in terms of my cognitive ability, I'm fortunate. I say this all the time. I'm fortunate that I've got to leave the sport, and I got to leave it in one piece. I got to leave it, you know, and in the midst of the hardest part of my competition, have the cognitive wherewithal to get a degree in physics and to write a book and to run a website and really do all these things that require mental exertion. So it's like I was part of this study when I was a kid. This might seem like a tangent, but it's not. Just hold on and stick with me. I was part of this study when I was a kid, and they tracked my IQ and my development in life till I was 22, believe. And one day I said, why am I part of this study? I never thought, because I had just been going so long. I did some research and Googled it. And turns out I ended up in the study because my mom smoked weed when I was pregnant with her. Or when she was pregnant with me. And so I was like, huh. I wonder how much taller or smarter I could have been if my mom hadn't done that. I think about that with boxing. I go, how much smarter or more mentally accomplished could I have been had I not boxed? And it's a hard question to answer, because, like the height question, I'm already 6'1". I'm taller than most people in this world. I know what my IQ is. I'm smarter than most people in this world. What did I give up? I joked that I had enough brain cells to spare, so whatever I lost, I'm good. But
well, you know, when you talked about that, I got into a discussion with some other friends the other day, and there's no good way to have a conversation about IQ, because it gets into these weird, because I was part of a couple of programs as a child, and I have a friend who is very smart, and we got into this conversation because one of my friends said, "Hey, you should join," talking to other friends, said, "You should join Mensa." Mensa is a society for people with extraordinarily high IQs. And we sat around and we all talked about it one night over pizza, and we all decided, we agree we're all just smart guys and we're having fun with it. But we also said, we all, and I'm not, if anybody listening is a member of Mensa, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about us. We felt like we'd be a bunch of assholes to join Mensa, because who are we going to tell? There's no way to nicely say, "Oh yeah, I graduated from here and I'm a member of Mensa." Well, now you got people being resentful.
Exactly. It's like money. It's like, how'd you get that money? Why you got to tell us about that money? Maybe not. But here's another thing about IQ, because I went to a Mensa meeting. I took the test and everything, and then went to one of their meetings. I was probably the youngest dude there. So I was like 23. Good food. I remember that they had great food. But here's what happens with people and things like Mensa, or rather, why things like Mensa exist. At least in the old days. Now I think you just hop on social media and you can really reach out and find people. Highly intelligent people, for whatever reason, and this seems to happen, or has a much greater likelihood of happening with every point over like 120 your IQ is. For whatever, man, these people have a very difficult time, many of them, fitting in and being social and finding people with like minds. Like minds, of course, they're 3 standard deviations above the mean, so effectively no like minds, but just finding people who they can be themselves with, I think, around. And so I think organizations, certainly, look, you are definitely an asshole if you go around bragging that you're a Mensa, right? You're an asshole if you ever did that. With that said, I understand why people join that club, man. Like, because who you going to talk about, who you going to talk to. If most people, by definition, are not interested in the things that you just breathe in our normal way and have fun with, you got to find your tribe, man. Not everybody's cut out to be a lone wolf,
Right.
even if they have
Well,
lone
I have
wolf.
a friend. I have a friend who's one of the most miserable people I know, with an IQ of 157.
Jeez, man.
Documented 157.
And that's like I'm 130. I'm gonna just
Oh,
use
you
it.
had to do it, didn't you?
I had to, right? But I had to do it to make a point, and otherwise I wouldn't have done it. 130 is literally that cusp between 2 and 3 standard deviations. And I don't know anybody who doesn't know how probability works. At the third standard deviation, you exist at a point greater than 99.7% of the rest of the population sample you're studying. So at not so with 100 people in a room, you pick me out, I'll be smarter than all 100 of them, which doesn't make sense. You need 1,000 people for it to show. And when I say smart, I just mean in terms of cognitive processing capability, not EQ or my ability to relate to people. That's just what it is. To be 157 means that, and I feel like I mean, do I feel smart? I mean, I have challenges. I feel like there are things I don't understand that I have to work hard on. I feel like, but I've also humbled myself, like, whoa, through the hard knocks of life. At 157, what the hell humbles you? Like I've been humbled by so many things that I have to absorb.
I'll tell you what humbles me. I'll tell you, because we're close enough friends. We have a lot of interesting conversations. And this is a friend. I'm a friend that people come to for help when they want someone who they think can be a little bit more objective than they are. This is the friend I go to when I want someone who may be more objective than even I am to help me. I'll tell you what humbles you. What humbles you is knowing that because you are a bit more attuned than other people, you will never be able to be blindly happy. You will never be able to be in a situation without seeing clearly where things can extrapolate to. A lot of the freedom I have in life, no, I wasn't smart enough to figure out that I wasn't supposed to make it.
You know what this reminds me of? I don't know if you're familiar with the personality known as Andrew Tate, but he's a good friend of mine as well. And he's a brother, I mean, literal brother, even though he doesn't look like it. His father was Emery Tate, who was a great chess master. He didn't go grandmaster, but he was very, very strong. And his mom's white, but he looks like a white guy. Anyhow, he said to me, watching his dad come up, he said his dad picked up Russian in like 30 days and learned all these other languages with the army, and then ended up becoming a chess international master. Obviously a brilliant dude. He said his dad was so smart that he couldn't understand. Like Dylan, he said he couldn't fathom what the world looked like. Them a lot of times things didn't look happy or right. He said for him though, he goes, I'm lucky because I'm smart enough to have gotten rich, but dumb enough to enjoy it.
Yes.
And that always stuck with me because at some point, like if I was 157, I probably would have never drank, right? I would have looked and said, well, this is playing out here and this will put me here. And a lot of, you can't have any fun. You can't lose yourself in the stupidity of life.
Well, my friend always asked me an interesting set of questions, and they always start with, why can't people just? And I'm like, because people don't do that. Why can't people just? Because that's not people. Remember, you're normal, you're not.
And because we always use ourself as a frame of reference for the rest of the world, which makes no sense, but that's just how humans do it, we think everyone else is weird. You got to have some real humbling life experience to be able to go, you know what? I think this, and I know it's from my experience, but I know most people ain't thinking that. And you think that's like that sounds normal. I think that sounds normal between you and me. But I know this because of all the people I interact with on a daily basis. That way of thinking is not normal.
No.
It is not representative of the whole. For people to go, how I see the world is how I see the world, and it is not correct. And to be able to, and then to hold that and interact with people and go, you know what, your perspective or what you think, I can see how that could be correct. People treat it like a superpower that I regularly say online. You know what, I was wrong about that, or you changed my opinion about that, and I regularly say it. But I've been humbled by life. Like, you get your soul dragged through the mud enough times, and you realize ain't nobody clean, man. We all people just pretending. You just gotta go and try and fit in where you get in, but not lose your soul at the same time.
Mm, mm. Well, let's do this. I want to wrap it up, but I want to wrap it up asking you about what you think about the UFC that's coming up. And I want to ask.
Oh, the one coming on tonight?
Yeah, are you familiar with the card? Because I want to ask you about a couple fights.
I'm not familiar with the card. I don't, but I am familiar. I'm actually, what is it? It's 6:39 here. I got a little bit of time to decide if I want to go check it out. Because what ended up happening, I didn't follow it that intensely, and then Conor McGregor went and fought Mayweather, and I got the goal, and then I looked more into Conor McGregor, and I was like, you know what? He ain't my kind of fighter, but he's my kind of story. It's like why I like the Patriots. I don't really like the Patriots, but I enjoy the more I read about Tom Brady and how his mindset morphed and how he grew into the game. That's what I enjoy. And that's what I enjoy about Conor McGregor is how he was one dude and then he went and became the dude he is now. And so I think I'm probably gonna go like find a place. I'm not paying for it. I don't like it that much. I'll probably go if I see somebody watching. I got one homie, he out of town. I'll probably go down to Dave and Buster's and order some food and some whatever. But nah, I am not familiar with the card at all, man. I wish I had something to give you in that regard.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen, we have to do this more often, my friend.
Oh, for sure. You know, I don't know how many likes and views we get, but I had a good time and there'll be replays
You know
and
what?
people.
If as long as I had a good conversation with somebody I enjoyed, I'm all for it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Well, listen, you go catch up with stuff you got to catch up with. We'll have to talk again soon. We'll make it a regular thing. All right.
Very, very, very true, man. I got so many thoughts. Yes, that is true. What you said prior to, and yeah, I'm all about
So,
it,
how
man.
many times did you get punched in the head?
Man, more than I can count. I worry about that sometimes. Not all the time, but just enough. All right, man. You have a good one.
Bye.